Ladies and gentlemen, this is a report that just came out in Global Research and it's dated November 16th, 2017. They are now finding many communities around the U.S. that have lead levels that are higher than Flint, Michigan. Nearly 4,000 communities have high rates of child lead poisoning, ladies and gentlemen. And this is an updated study. Reuters News Agency has identified 3,810 neighborhoods where recently recorded child lead poisoning rates are at least double those found in Flint, Michigan. During the height of the city's water crisis in 2014 and 2015, some 1,300 of these hotspot communities, the percentage of children 6 and under with elevated lead levels was at least 4 times the percentage in Flint during the peak of the crisis in pockets of Baltimore, Cleveland, and Philadelphia, where lead poisoning has spanned generations. Reuters report that the rate of elevated tests over the last decade was 50% or higher. An interactive map released with study shows one census tract in Buffalo, New York, a former steel and auto center that, like Flint, has suffered decades of deindustrialization, where 68% of the children had high levels of lead. Let's see. All right, let's see if we can get this interactive map to work here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so according to this, since the 1970s, many of these places may have been contaminated. Now, what the map goes over are some of the areas that are heavily impacted, and here they are. Um, Now, according to what it says right here, this is a census tract of Colorado, Indiana, Massachusetts, Maryland, Minnesota, Missouri, New York, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. And there's also parts of California, Illinois, Michigan, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Texas, West Virginia, Connecticut, and Iowa that also shows high levels of lead. And this is really important to know because, especially if you see your children declining or even yourself is declining, that might be cause to alarm. Now, you could probably get a water tester out here. And there's one more thing I wanted to show you that just came out and it's making big news. In Brooklyn, Hasidic Jew neighborhood have higher blood levels as far as lead poisoning than in Flint, Michigan. Some Brooklyn children have lead blood levels, higher than kids in Flint, Michigan. So you can see this is an ongoing problem in America, just in general, you know. And believe it or not, I'm in New Jersey. And from what I understanding, New Jersey is one of the lower states. But it seems like when you go more inland, the problem seems to get worse in this nation. And it's not everywhere, but it's the majority, and that's pretty sad. That's really sad. New York City is among the nation's leader in reducing children exposure to lead poisoning. But in a new analysis of recently released blood tests, Reuters found that children in many city neighborhoods have dangerously high blood lead levels, some as high or higher than those kids in Flint, Michigan. According to the Center for Disease Control, most recent data, 5,400 children tested above the threshold for elevated blood lead readings. The worst cases cluster in Brooklyn, but dangerously high blood lead levels were also found in Washington Heights, Harlem, and Queens. So there is no community spared from these levels that they're finding. And, this is a shame. You have to wonder when you hear things about um, depopulation. You have to wonder, all of this is being done deliberately on the American people. I mean, the timing is definitely uncanny, y'all. All right, so let's get back to this interactive map. All right. The ingestion of any amount of heavy metal, whether through tainted water, lead based paint, contaminated soil, or fumes and dust, can do irreparable harm to children. This includes impeding the development of the brain and nervous systems, lower IQ, memory loss, hearing and speech problems, and behavior and attention related problems. The toxins which remains in the body can be passed on for generations, is also responsible for a host of adult health problems, including decreased kidney function, high blood pressure, tremors, and infertility. I'm not surprised. You know, I'd like to know who thought lead pipes were the best thing to use all across this country. That's what I would like to know. I bet you'll keep that person in hiding. We know that Flint, Michigan, ladies and gentlemen, is not even resolved. They're not even close to being resolved, you know, and it's still a bad situation for them. Now, I don't know how many of you filter your water or you try to use alternatives. I know some people buy a lot of bottled water. I'm one of those people. Although there have been no bad reports here in New Jersey where I am, I still always buy a lot of bottled water. I even cook with it. Whenever I cook anything, I use the bottled water. I can't help but think this entire system is sabotaged. I really, it is starting to look this way. All right, let me just go down a little bit. Reuters said this is the first look at data broken down by census tract, which are small county subdivisions averaging 4,000 citizens, or by zip code, with the average populations of 7,500. In December, Reuters noted that far from being the exception, Flint did not even rank among the most toxic cities in America. It pointed to Warren, Pennsylvania, a town on the Allegheny River, where 36% of the children tested had high levels of lead. So they had high levels of lead in Warren, Pennsylvania. to a zip code on Goat Island, Texas, where a quarter of tests showed poisoning. The newest map includes additional data collected this year by Reuter from Kansas, Georgia, Tennessee, Vermont, North Carolina, New York City, and Washington, D.C. The newly identified areas with high levels of child lead poisoning include a historic district in Savannah, Georgia, areas in Rutland, Vermont, near a popular ski area, and a largely Hasidic Jewish area in Brooklyn, New York. So they're saying these places actually tested higher for lead poisoning than Flint, Michigan. Like Flint, which has acres of land polluted by General Motors and other industrial firms, impoverished homes that peeling paint and underground lead water remains, service lines and the areas throughout the United States with the worst lead poisoning and invariable working class and poor. Of course, it's always going to be where the working class and poor are. Nobody should be surprised by that. There has been a sharp decline in poisoning since lead was removed from paint in 1976 and gasoline in 1995, the latter after more than a decade of resistance by the oil industry. The elimination of lead poisoning, however, is not possible due to lead pipes, uh, residual lead paint in poor urban and rural areas, and former or current industrial sites polluted with lead. And the picture that you're looking at here is the Flint River. And we know how heavily polluted that is. The poisoning of Flint was brought into the national and international spotlight only due to the courageous effort of the city's working class residents and science professionals like Edwards and pediatrician and public health advocate Dr. Mona Hannah Atisha. She was denounced by Governor Rick Snyder's office for slicing and dicing the results of blood samples. Flint became a symbol of everything that was wrong in America: corporate and political criminality, and the indifference of both the Democrats and Republicans to the plight of the working people. Oh, you know what? Neither side is any damn good. I mean, and look at all the politicians that have been to Flint, including President Obama, and nothing has changed. Those people are still in bad condition as far as the water is concerned. Nothing has changed. I mean, these people are only there for their political gain. All right, you had the media, celebrities, politicians, Barack Obama to Hillary to Bernie Sanders. And remember, even Trump went there. And nothing changed, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing changed. Nothing. More than 3 years since the switch to the Flint River, however, nothing has been done to make the residents whole. A new report from Reuters has been largely ignored by the rest of the corporate control media, which originally presented the Flint crisis as an anomaly until it was unable to deny the massive and nationwide scale of the problem. Far from committing the necessary resources, including an estimated 500 billion to 1 trillion to replace the nation's lead pipes, the Obama and Trump administrations have failed to provide any significant funding to address this public health threat. even as they have squandered trillions on bank bailouts and military spending and tax cuts for the wealthy. Well, Trump has already done his little tax cut for the wealthy, while people are suffering with these lead pipes. Trump's 2018 budget request includes 1.2 billion or 70% cut to CDC and the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry. So he's cutting from those programs. But, just take a look at this map and you can see, where it's bad in the US. This is really a shame, but, this is cause for all of us to take some caution, family. If you're in any of these areas where there's a strong level of lead, please just be cautious and think about what you can do to remedy the situation for your families. It's a damn shame. Please leave your comment and subscribe, and don't forget to hit on the notification bell, family. Peace.